Johnny's time in Israel had come to an end. He got an emergency passport at the U.S. Embassy and flew back.
This is the actual emergency passport, right? The actual one. But once again, that doesn't get around a travel ban.
Back home to America. From what I can tell, it seems like Johnny wasn't very active for some time. Maybe he needed to mentally decompress from the perpetual turmoil he had found himself in over the
No, he was just preparing his next move.
past year. But eventually, whatever money he managed to save up from his streaming days began to run out, and he needed to find a new lucrative way to make money. Rent was due, and he felt there was no better place to farm clips next than in South Korea. On September 27th, 2024, Johnny Somali touched down in the country, but this time was supposed to be different. He had previously begged Kick CEO Eddie Craven for forgiveness, promising that he learned the error of his ways.
Eddie, I learned my lesson from the Japan situation. I'm really sorry for anything that I've done to bring negative attention to Kick. I know I go viral a lot. It's not always for the best things, but Eddie, I promise you, I'm trying to reform. I'm trying to change.
While this request for a second chance seemed to have fallen
By the way, this is Slightly Homeless, who once again was the guy who was kind of blocking for him, simping for him, etc. Even when his own girlfriend and him were being harassed by Johnny, he was still protecting Johnny. So just to call out who that is right now.
on deaf ears, it does appear Johnny was making a real effort to get his act together. He was calling himself a reformed streamer, privated his old videos on his YouTube channel, and was even filtering out text-to-speech donations to avoid inappropriate outbursts.
So all this does, so what does this show you? He knows how to stream properly and not get in trouble. He knows that. He chooses not to do it. He makes a conscious attempt not to do it.
Despite this blatant disrespect, Johnny was still committing to the bit of recently reformed streamer. A short time after trespassing, he sat next to a statue of a woman and made an official statement on his behavior in Japan.
I stand with the Korean people. I love Korea. And everything that I did in Japan was for the Korean and the Chinese people.
This entire diatribe is already passive-aggressive enough, but the nature of his behavior in this video is much more sinister than you might think at first glance. You see, the statue that he sits next to and eventually kisses on the cheek is called the Comfort Woman statue. It pays tribute to the over 200,000 women and girls who were trafficked into Japanese military brothels during
This is one in California, because there's also some around the world.
Second World War. It serves as not only a reminder of what took place, but also as a protest to the Japanese government and their refusal to take accountability for the tragedy. It goes without saying that treating a monument of this nature as a prop for a passive-aggressive apology would not be received well by basically anyone. Even though Johnny was making a promise to respect the Korean people during his visit, he seemed to have no problem belittling their criticisms of him in the wake of the clip going viral.
I saw that the Koreans were getting mad about that Comfort Woman statue. So I'm like, we might as well make this matter. I think the main Comfort Woman statue is in front of the Japanese embassy. So that is where I'm going right now.
That he's right. That's the one that is the most, it's considered the main one. Yeah. So he went to the main one to be the most offensive possible.
Even knowing full well what the statue represented, he had no issue continuing to defile the sacred monument. Johnny then
Again, showing he knew what it was, and he did it repeatedly.
Made his way to the Japanese embassy, making sure to harass as many people as he could before arriving.
Sir, is this legal what you're doing? Is this legal? Is this legal what you're doing? Are you on a tourist visa?
No, I'm not.
What visa are you on? Are you on a tourist visa? I'm checking. You cannot make money in tourist visa.
Once he arrived at the embassy, Johnny
Which actually, you know what's funny? Even he knows that you can't make money on a tourist visa, but he was there streaming on a tourist visa. So he knew, and he's breaking the law anyways. He knows he can't be earning money, and he was earning money. It's very telling. He just keeps telling on himself that he knows what he's doing, and this is just great proof for the court.
figured he might as well kill two birds with one stone and try to get unbanned from Japan. But unfortunately, the embassy was closed for a holiday.
He can't get unbanned from Japan. There is a de facto 5-year ban after you're convicted, after you have a punishment crime in Japan. So despite the fact he only had a fine, it still counts as a crime. He is banned for 5 years blanket. He cannot come back till 2029. So that there's no way for him to get that quote unquote lifted.
It seems that Johnny's intentions to visit the statue located at the embassy had faded from his mind as he became preoccupied with dancing in the street in a traditional Korean dress and of course being confronted by angry strangers.
Let's not bother her.
Who the f I bother? Are you retarded?
Bother her.
Don't you? I can call the police on you. You put a hand on me. I have it on video. Don't touch me.
What's your name?
My last warning.
Johnny?
My last warning.
He continued to wander the streets for the next few days, eventually stumbling upon a young woman standing alone on the sidewalk, just waiting to be harassed.
What are you scared for? Relax,
See,
yo.
once again, he's only brave when he harasses women and children. This is the type of person he is. He backs down and with guys, he runs away. He tries to be cool. He's a big tough guy when it's women and children.
Why are you putting the phone up like this? Why are you scared like this? Whoa!
He decided to follow the woman into the store and continue to harass her until a man stepped in to intervene. Johnny was becoming more reckless, unruly, and belligerent by the day,
Once again, possible obstruction there. There's some possible harassment.
seemingly begging to be arrested, confronted, or attacked, in the hopes of capturing his next viral moment. In this clip, an extremely intoxicated Johnny Somali begins spilling food and alcohol all over the floor.
This clip is the first obstruction charge. So we've gotten to the point in which this is the first criminal side of this. So this is obstruction number one. And remember, people were really mad that this was the only thing they brought at first, but Korea knew. Korea had a plan. Korea was strategy. They would start with the easy one, the one that's a layup that Johnny would plead guilty to because he thinks it's no big deal. And then they tacked on 6 more charges. This was just number 1 of 7. And we're not done yet, baby. We're not done yet.
While blasting loud text-to-speech donations with no regard for anyone else around him. Unsurprisingly, one of the employees confronted him
And this is the part where it's case closed obstruction. She's telling him what to do, and he's cursing at her and not doing what she tells him to do.
eventually called the police. Luckily for Johnny, it seems he managed to flee the scene before the cops arrived. But something was missing from his content. There was a palpable lack of public transport harassment, which he quickly made sure to correct. Johnny, on a public bus, began blasting loud music and insulting fellow passengers, sparking a massive...
Which is another violation of the... This is another obstruction of justice here. So this is another... sorry, not obstruction of justice. Sorry, obstruction of business. So messing with a public bus, disrupting the normal operations of a bus is obstruction of business. This is another one.
Of confrontation. Of course, despite numerous people...
When the driver has to get up, you've stopped the bus from going. He is charged with this. This is a crime. So what you're watching, this little thing right here, this was a crime. Let me pull it back here.
Assaulting fellow passengers, sparking a massive confrontation. Of course, despite numerous people surrounding him and asking him to stop, he continued to play loud music and act like a nuisance. Obviously fed up with his behavior, one of the passengers called the cops, and Johnny quickly made his escape before he could be caught. Unfortunately for him, the police were able to track him down.
They're going to be able to find out where he is. It's Korea. There's CCTV everywhere. They know who he is.
And he was then placed in handcuffs and arrested. But Johnny wouldn't spend long at the police station, being allowed to leave about 4 hours after being arrested.
And this is where he kind of gets cocky. He thinks because he isn't put behind bars immediately, there's no consequences, but that's not true.
Johnny was officially spooked, and he was desperate to not find himself in a similar situation as he did in Japan.
But the problem is the subway police know me. Now the upground police know me. Let's just leave all these. I'm ready to get out of here. I'm gonna get a ticket to Thailand probably tomorrow, if not the next 2 days.
Despite claiming that he intended to flee to Thailand, he did no such thing. Instead, he decided it was better to continue provoking the Korean people, specifically returning to the Comfort Woman statue outside of the Japanese embassy and making abhorrent gestures to it.
I brought the baby oil to this. I brought the baby oil. I was about to P. Diddy her. But they said it's locked up, bro. They got this locked up in security, bro.
Now incapable of accessing the statue or the Japanese embassy, Johnny decided to find a different Comfort Woman statue and make a complete fool of himself. He begins groping and kissing it, removing his clothes, and begins rubbing himself with baby oil, all while blasting loud music and grinding on it. He is unsurprisingly confronted about this, with one woman very gently explaining to him the statue's significance, which he pretends to be ignorant of. As bad as this
He knew
situation...
the entire time.
was it was about to get a whole lot worse, as Johnny's partner in crime, Gino, was making his way to Korea. Gino made sure to make his mark on Korea felt almost immediately, with him provoking a woman into physically assaulting him, and his presence only encouraged Johnny to continue to act out.
Hiroshima Nagasaki was a good thing.
Johnny's carelessness was at an all-time high, as he decided to once again blast loud text-to-speech donations through a speaker on a public bus, despite being arrested only days earlier for the exact same thing, and much like the last time, he was
again showing a pattern of behavior and showing if he is not punished harshly, he will continue what he's doing, and it encourages others to do what they're doing because he's doing the same things again even after he's arrested. So this shows them they've really got to punish this guy severely, or else other people are going to follow these sort of sprees.
confronted by the cops.
I'm chill, calm down.
Johnny was able to avoid legal repercussions, but they wouldn't last for long. For the rest of October, Johnny found himself doing what made him famous, getting yelled at by strangers, confronted by police, and occasionally punched. It seems like every stream involved the police questioning Johnny after causing a scene or being a nuisance. This had become such a frequent occurrence that he was now on the cops' radar, and they were directly investigating a plethora of crimes he committed.
We saw your video.
I don't do no crime. No crime.
You ever been visit the ETH Wallet, right?
No crime.
Right?
I don't do no crime.
And then you touch the...
I don't do no crime.
As if it couldn't get any worse for him, after the police left, a random passerby sucker punched him when he wasn't looking.
Go to Johnny's stream, we're gonna have a good time. Whoa!
There's one of the punches.
Johnny, despite having a clear disregard for the law himself, was deeply offended by this attack and decided to go file a police report. But the attacks wouldn't stop there. In fact, they would only escalate. A few days later, he would get jumped and chased down the street.
Whoa, 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 때렸다. Whoa, 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 레전드. Whoa, whoa.
The following day, another Korean live streamer attempted.
This is Youngman. So this is the one he calls the whale. This is the one who he created the deep fake of. So this is Youngman. He's the one. There's a deep fake of him kissing Hank, and this is the one who I interviewed. I haven't aired the interview. I may air it. We may watch it together. Maybe. He calls him the whale. He calls him the beluga. He calls him the fat one or whatever. But he made a deep fake of him. And Youngman said to me, and I played the clip, that he is not dropping the deep fake charge. So there's no way that he's going to let him go.
To stream snipe Johnny in the hopes of attacking him.
Johnny 어딨어?
A few days after this, Johnny was confronted by yet another Korean YouTuber.
That's Yu Dalgoon, the UDT member, essentially a Korean SEAL. I interviewed him, really base dude. Knocked him out pretty much.
Nearly knocked him unconscious.
어디가? What you mean? 어디가? Oh!
It appears that both men were arrested and taken into custody, but released a short while later. You may be wondering what exactly is going on. Previous physical attacks against Johnny seem to happen in a spur of the moment, but these encounters seem much premeditated. Well, that's likely because a bounty was placed on Johnny's head. Specifically, a 1 million won bounty was placed for anyone able to knock
1 million won is like $700, guys. So just so you know.
Johnny Somali out cold, and tons of YouTubers were trying to claim the prize. As if staying in a country full of people who want to kill you isn't bad enough, things got even worse for Johnny when an arrest warrant was placed for both him and his bodyguard's arrest. The charges included obstruction of business and violations of the minor.
This is actually not correct. So this is where Turkey Tom makes a mistake. Hank has not had anything issued against them. So that's a mistake that he makes. So I don't know where he got that information from, probably from like a bad source, but this is actually incorrect. Hank, nothing has hit Hank so far. So just FYI.
Crimes Act. However, Johnny had also committed a crime that doesn't even exist in America. For whatever reason, Johnny decided to create AI-generated videos of him making out with a female Korean streamer.
So this is the Bong Bong deepfake. This one is really, really bad. And this is really going to hurt him, is this deepfake with Bong Bong, because they are not joking about this, and because he said, "This is my girlfriend," and represented being in a relationship with her after showing a sexual act multiple times.
South Korean law states that the creation, distribution, or possession of non-consensual AI-generated explicit content is classified as a sexual crime. Legal experts have confirmed that this offense carries a mandatory prison sentence of up to 7 years. This means that Johnny was also facing charges of sexual harassment. Seemingly with no hope of escaping, it seems that Johnny and his bodyguard turned themselves in. A few days later, on the 8th of November.
By the way, bodyguard, calling Hank a bodyguard is being very generous. Hank couldn't bodyguard a fly. Hank's bodyguard is calling the police. Hank would lose to an old grandmother. Hank is not in good shape. He's a coward. He runs away from any man. He's really not afraid. He really only tries to intimidate women and children, just like Johnny. Hank is an absolute coward. He will not fight anybody.
Johnny made a public statement on Korean television.
So to all the people of South Korea, I just want to apologize for what I've done, and I really did not mean to hurt your guys' pride this much. You guys are a good people. You guys are a great people.
Despite
remember, look at in that apology. Look at this. Look at this. Let me play it one more time.
trying.
I really did not mean to hurt your guys' pride this much.
He's not apologizing. He's saying, I hurt your pride. He's saying you're too proudful. You have too much pride, right? Like you guys are sensitive. That's what he's trying to say. It's not an apology. It was a non-apology. Tormir says, if there was a content for losers, RKI would come in second because he's a loser. The secondhand embarrassment is unbearable. Hope he doesn't reproduce. That's the vasectomy's for. Pirate Skeleton says for $4.99, Korean police really handed him the metaphorical rope and his behavior, knowing full well he wasn't going to behave. Conspiracy says 1 million won. If I had $700, I could actually get 1 million bills or coins or whatever one single won is. I mean, you could.
You guys are a good people. You guys are a great people.
Despite trying to appear deeply apologetic, he hardly meant a word he said in this press conference. Johnny was eventually indicted, specifically for the clip of him at the convenience store, where he carelessly spilled food and drink while severely intoxicated. This meant that he was banned from leaving the country while he awaited a verdict.
And the ban was actually for multiple criteria. It wasn't just for the ramen. It was for multiple things he was under investigation for.
Bright side, at least for him, he was permitted to leave police custody while the process continued. While he tried to convince the South Korean people that he was done with his days of trolling and harassment, he quickly changed his mind the second he got a fresh taste of freedom.
These motherfuckers are saying I'm getting 29 years. Y'all not gonna catch me alive.
Dennis Rodman? I'm the next Dennis Rodman.
By the way, this is fully within South Korea. This is actually the wall, the old wall that is by Bukhansan. So this is not North Korea, South Korea, guys.
Seemingly with nothing else to lose, Johnny became more reckless than ever, persistently posting to his Instagram and TikTok accounts, egging on local prosecutors, his detractors, and the Korean people. This was really the only content we would get from Johnny for the next few months, and he would be almost completely radio silent in January and February.
Which is not necessarily true. We know this because he was making a lot of comments in his Discord. He was doing a lot of things. So we had a lot of stuff to cover because he was talking during those months, and he was talking us, he was talking other people, he was causing a lot of issues. So while I know Turkey Tom thinks maybe there wasn't any viral things happening, a lot was happening in those months, and we have a lot that was going on behind the scenes in those months, which is becoming legally relevant.
February of 2025. The only notable moment during this time period would come on the 17th of February, where Johnny would post a new video wearing a suit, a blonde wig, and a Make America Great Again cap.
I am part of the criminal nuisance live streamer gang called CX. We are ran by our top leader, Ice Poseidon.
This was, of course, to try to get Ice Poseidon in trouble, try to get Miskiv in trouble, and try to clout Jack in. Once again, Johnny cannot stay silent for multiple months. This is why I am confident, ladies and gentlemen, that Johnny Somali will do something before August. He physically cannot help himself. He cannot help himself. He will do something before then. He just has no self-control. He's addicted to the clout.
Leader of CX and Miskiv, the leader of OTK. We are part of a live streaming international criminal mafia.
Johnny comedically shifts all of the blame to Ice Poseidon, claiming that he is the leader of their group and the main reason he even went to Japan in the first place. He also ends the video with him ripping up a printed out picture of the rising sun. However, Johnny would officially make his return to streaming on the 7th of March, with the intention of streaming his trial.
And I will be live streaming the trial.
He did not do that. The only person who had live updates was yours truly, and that wasn't from the courtroom. It was after the courtroom. So he did not do that at all.
I will be live streaming before, during, and after. It's time for a redemption arc, a Johnny Somali redemption arc. I'm going to try to become a better man.
However, it seems that he showed up late and drunk, and it was postponed. This story is corroborated by the...
It was not postponed. So this is another little thing to be correct. The trial happened an hour later. So he was an hour late. It wasn't postponed to another day. It was just delayed a little bit. And yeah, Atozi was there. So was I.
The commentary YouTuber Atozi, who was actually in person for his trial.
And of course, he walked in with a MAGA hat on. Immediately, he got in trouble for wearing the hat. He took off the hat, and then he put it back on again and got in trouble for it again. On top of that, he was also carrying a massive water bottle. That's not allowed in court either. He got in trouble for that. And the reason he had that water bottle was presumably because he decided to go live last night at 3 in the morning. And he drank a bunch on his stream, so he was too drunk to make it to court on time. So that water bottle was most likely to sober himself up because he showed up to court more than an hour late. Then, you know, he had a massive smile on his face until the judge started reading all of his charges. So the people who witnessed this, they're believing that he's looking at about 3 to 5 years in prison at least for all of this.
That was my opinion at the time, and I still will stand by that. At least 3 to 5.
Mentally destroyed as Johnny had to have been in the beginning of this story, his mental state was plummeting to unthinkable lows. A few weeks after his trial was postponed, he was seen streaming, almost completely naked and drunk, screaming in the street.
We covered this one, and he was definitely there were definitely reports on him for this behavior as well. He was harassing several people. He went into a church and he was disrupting a church. He was really despicable during the stream.
He then began walking through the city, still drunk and in his underwear,
looking like an ugly worm from MIB, and that's insulting to the worm from MIB.
He was stopped by a cop, arrested, and taken to the station. But he didn't seem to care in the slightest, with him sharing this epic selfie of him flexing to his Discord server. Ultimately, since he was in the middle of a pending trial, the police just let him leave.
It's not, and that's another inaccuracy from Turkey Tom. It's not because he's in a pending trial. It's because the default setting is to let people go. They do not take people in unless it's a violent crime or something that's a very severe crime like drugs or something, like drug trafficking, right? You're not going to get thrown into jail unless it's a violent crime. So that's just their strategy.
Johnny has done so much more than just harass a few innocent people. He's done much more than strike fear and anxiety into the hearts of Japanese and South Korean citizens that he encounters. He has created a stigma that affects his fellow streamers and an effective business model to farm content. But Ice Poseidon didn't buy his shtick, and Johnny was once again left with nothing but a live stream chat full of people that wanted to watch him burn. Looking for whatever good favor he could, Johnny decided to visit another comfort woman statue, where he once again offered his apologies. I'm sure it's not surprising that the apology was just as half-hearted as all the others. If he really felt sorry, he wouldn't allow the issue to linger as much as he does. In reality, he knows that any interaction with a comfort woman statue will bring him some form of engagement on his channel. When his apology tour didn't really work out, he decided he may as well go back to doing what he does best, that being having public meltdowns and harassing as many people as possible. It really didn't matter to him at this point. His life was basically over, so what's the harm in committing the same crime a few more times? He's really not even trying anymore, and it's hard to say that what he's doing is worthy of being called content. When he was initially disrupting,
as he would say, it's non-tent.
Strangers on the subway or blasting TTS donations, at least there was something to keep your attention. But now, it seems he has no desire to be even remotely interesting and just wants to streamline the process of confrontation as quickly as possible. You may be wondering why the police don't just keep him in a cell until his trial is complete, and to be honest, I can't tell you why. The leading theory is that their potential—
There's no theory. There's no theory. This is a fact. I've explained this multiple times. And Turkey Tom, once again, I think he relied on a lot of clips from other people and didn't watch my content closely. But this is what Korea does. They do not jail people before trial unless they are violent or it's an extreme crime. These are not. So it doesn't fit the category of crimes you would put him away for. Now they could, and the judge could change their mind. And if he does more, they might do that. It's always possible that could happen. We will see. But at this point, he's not there yet. And by the way, the strategies worked and allowed him to hang himself.
essentially just allowing him to continue to rack up charges to contribute to their mountain of evidence, which would ensure his conviction. If Johnny just laid low after his arrest and stayed out of trouble, he would probably have a much better chance of getting off scot-free. But Johnny seems to not care about this at all, even going as far as to directly provoke the police by knowingly engaging in illegal activity. Recently, while on a live stream, Johnny showed a brand new deepfake video he created,
which just goes into the deepfake stack. Once again, another bong bong deepfake, which goes in the file and showing he's continuing to make deepfakes. This really screws him. This newer bong bong really screws him over.
Don't ever show that.
This seemed to be Johnny's gravest mistake yet. His belligerent threats and provocative statements paled in comparison to directly fanning the flames of an ongoing trial, and it netted him a secondary sex offense charge. That means his 2 obstruction of business charges, which come
actually 3. It's 3.
A 5-year sentence each, as well as 2 sex offense charges, totaling a combined 21 years in prison, meaning that Johnny is currently facing.
So that was the old estimate, and that was before we figured out the sentencing guidelines. It's now 12.5 now that we figured out how to do it correctly. So this was me scoozy, and it's my fault because at first I didn't know those guidelines either, and we thought it was 31. It's now 12.5. So just understand that's the updated number. Sorry, guys.
Over 30 years behind bars. Of course, as things only get worse and worse, Johnny has less incentive to parse his words or bite his tongue, in the hopes of sparing himself further consequences. For example, Johnny has publicly threatened that if he were to hypothetically be infected with HIV or AIDS, he would become a super spreader, meaning that he would be, in essence, a biological terrorist and attempt to infect as many unsuspecting victims with the disease as possible.
Including me. He threatened to stab me with an HIV needle.
If I ever caught HIV, I would become a super spreader. I'll say it right now. I don't care.
Things like this not only add more potential charges to his eventual sentencing, but they only embolden the courts to believe that he's incapable of change and undeserving of forgiveness. It also doesn't help that he actively chose to threaten the judge presiding over the case and their family while on his live stream.
The judge, the prosecutor, y'all can suck my ass. Yeah. Suck my soft.
Causing anxiety by carrying a fish. Tell the judge you can suck my dick. I'll bring a fish.
The judge is going to hear that. Mind you, the judge is getting all of this. The judge 100% is getting this evidence, is getting this video. Have fun, Johnny.
To your mother's house. I don't care.
His most recent appearance in court took place in May of 2025, where Johnny pled guilty to all of his charges.
Thank you. This is, of course, courtesy of Legal Mindset. It's my graph, baby. He didn't plead guilty to everything. That's wrong. He pled guilty to only some. This is actually the not even the right one. They're using the wrong table. He pled guilty to 2 of the obstruction, 2 minor crimes act. We still got 1 obstruction and both of the deepfakes that are not guilty.
Except the charges relating to the deepfaked videos. This is likely because the bulk of his potential sentencing comes from those crimes, and if they go away, he could potentially shave 21 years off his sentence. But somehow, even with 1 foot basically in a jail cell at this point, Johnny Somali still can't help himself. Take, for example, the female streamer that he made the AI videos of. He's actively tried to intimidate her into silence by implying that some kind of legal repercussion may be in her future if she continues to push the issue in court.
Guess who's getting charged too? Like, I can drop really knowledge on you, bro. That stupid bong bong. She showed that image as well on her stream, right? So guess who went to the police station? I put charges on bong bong. Bong bong getting charged too. Like, I'm not playing.
Obviously, it's ridiculous to think that she could be held legally accountable, considering that she didn't create the deepfaked images, and the only reason she had them in her possession was because Johnny publicly distributed them. For now, Johnny's story ends with a question mark, as the internet waits with bated breath to see when he'll be thrown in jail and for how long. Even if he were to plead guilty to all of his charges, there's no guarantee that he would be given the max sentence. There's no
guarantee, but also it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Very real possibility that he'll not only be a free man sooner than we think, but also that his reign of terror is far from over.
That's not true. So he's not going to be free anytime soon, even if, and I'll stop it here because that's kind of the end here. But even if this was the pleading guilty and he pled guilty to everything, he would still have at least 6 months, likely 4 to 6 months of trial left for him. So he's not going to get out of there likely before 2026, even if he was let off easy, right? even if it's a slap on the wrist. So that was Turkey Tom. Once again, a well-produced, I think he did a good job of producing it. The production effects are good, and some of the general background is good. Where he slips up is getting the details of the Korean legal process and some of the charges and some of the later stuff wrong. So a little bit sloppy at the end, but other than that, the general production and backstory, good job. So a good one. If you want to go over there to his channel and like the video, leave a comment, tell him you saw from Legal Mindset, feel free. But definitely that's why we go into the fine details, because they matter and because they're relevant. So cool stuff. Really good A+ production value there. Really good music and background and everything, and good censoring to make sure it's okay for YouTube. One of the reasons why we get in trouble is because we don't always censor stuff. So some of our videos get put in the naughty camp. So all that stuff is good for YouTube.